one. It's not easy to stand on the shoulders of giants. We just transit from the planet, so I'm going to time on it. All right. You are welcome to this talk on the constraints of wise use of urban wetlands. I want to share some evidence, some options for sustainability in the Vanilla Cameroon by myself, Crispo, Vanilla Tinker. Now, we will, in the next few minutes, we are going to walk through some introduction. We look at the research question, the study area, which is part of the methodology, data collection, and some analysis, and then the results we have and some take home. Here are some possible areas for your feedback, and then many more. As most may know, wetlands are one of the most important ecosystems on Earth in terms of the functioning of ecosystem services, in terms of supporting services, regulatory services, cultural and other services, which are very relevant for environmental sustainability and then community well-being at the same time, climate solutions. This is the basis for the existence of the Ramsar Convention since 1971, which has championed the wise use of wetlands for over half a century. But unfortunately, 60% of these wetlands have been lost globally. And surprisingly, 35% has been lost in the life of the Ramsar Convention. Now, while previous studies, such as those for Bridgewater and Kim and a host of others, hint that this degradation of wetlands at the global stage, for example, at the institutional failures of the Ramsar Convention, other studies and scholars have identified more specific challenges to the wise use of wetlands around the world. Now, these have shown that multiple approaches have been implemented in several areas to target the degradation of wetlands, community engagement, policy improvement, and so many others. What does this therefore suggest? This suggests that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to target the degradation of wetlands. And therefore, if there is no one-size-fits-all approach and there are specific challenges to the management of wetlands in several areas of the world, therefore we think it is important to pay attention to local constraints in the degradation of wetlands in several places. And these constraints are often more insufficiently regarded, especially in the context of sub-Saharan Africa. That's why we believe that it is important to report on these constraints in these areas to help us reflect on better developing approaches for sustainable management of these wetlands. Therefore, the overarching question here is what actually constrains or really constrains the wise use of wetlands and how could management be rendered inclusive and more sustainable. With this, the objectives are to investigate the constraints seen in Bamenda, Cameroon, and to develop a framework that can unlock inclusive and sustainable management of wetlands. This is the study area. I'm not going to spend more time here. Okay, here, Bamenda is I think the fourth largest city in Bamenda in Cameroon, and this is an urban area or a private city in this region as a whole by excellence. Therefore, this area has the urban and peri-urban area. This is more of the urban area, and then this study considered the remaining parts out as the peri-urban area in this locality. Therefore, we thought that it is important to look at what is happening within these areas since it is an urban environment. And most of the wetlands here are riparian wetlands, those on the rivers or floodplain wetlands. With this, some efforts have been made in the past to check on these wetlands. For example, the erection of signposts to sensitize the population on the non-reclamation of these areas within the community, as well as some awareness raising and refusal to provide some town planning documents to the population, but these have been inefficient. So, this coupled with the socio-political armed conflict going on in this area, which has triggered a lot of dynamics, it made it important for us to look at what actually challenges the management of wetlands in this urban periphery and which solutions or options could we come out with for better management. With this, we did some field survey, key informal interviews, focus group discussion, as you can find here, and then we have a workshop with participants where we try to bring the participants together to some participants or community members together for us to read, to triangulate the data we have from these other sources and also try to engage the communities in some activities. We did some analysis descriptively with SPSF and EXA, and we did content analysis for the qualitative data we have. And some results for the, I'll highlight here that in this section, we try to segregate these constraints into two for better understanding. We look at the fundamental constraints or management constraints, and we also look at the dimension of the stress. And from our survey, we found that inadequate awareness of the importance of wetlands stops the chart in this area, as well as added to weak implementation and less engagement of stakeholders in the management of the wetlands in this area. And with this, we also try to check and found the challenges to co-management is mostly dominated by conflict between states and communities in this area. And from qualitative, our interviews, we found that the socio-political armed conflict has placed a lot of constraints to the management of wetlands. One, because it has led to a lot of displacement of people from most of the rural areas into this center. And this has added not just ITPs in the town, rendering the management difficult, but institutions trusted to manage these wetlands have also displaced themselves. So some of them have even changed where they are and they can't also operate in the institution. You can see here one of our interview sources in 2022 told us when asked about the crisis, the impact of the crisis, he just said the crisis drowns in all. So something of that sort, and then you can understand more. And we also have political influence. This speaks more to corruption, and I think you will find this where one of our interviews told us politicians will simply call and tell you, I have an interest in that place. As such, you become powerless because you are at risk if you do otherwise. So when they get down to the field, they can send them for a few visits and they realize that they are in a wetland area. Once they get there, the politician just, if it encroaches in one of their plots, they will just tell you that I have an interest in that place. So you go and give the document for reclamation. And they give because if they do otherwise, and they so we kept all our interviews blind, but some of them told us that if if certain things come up, they are willing to talk because some of them really spoke out in the workshops. So with this, we also have our centralization of the management of wetlands and in the whole country because everything is handled in the political capital and it becomes so difficult for management. Looking at the threats to wetland management in these areas, that is urban sprawl and urbanization with increased population dominates the charts. All this translates into, like you see, rampant and haphazard reclamation of wetlands in the area like you find in photo here and the deposition of this waste in the wetlands areas. Now, though this is relatively less urban and peri-urban agriculture, we found through field observations, we found some malpractices in the management of wetlands in these areas. And one of it is what you find on sea, where soil baths are used to block the stream during off-season cultivation, that is dry season cultivation, to deviate water through local canals into farms. But after the season, when rains come back, this is blocked. They don't clear back the stream for free flow, and the water is forced to spread to all the dimensions, causing a lot of damage in the area. This is a malpractice, and this is another photo here on D, which is the cultivation of the crop farms right to the stream banks. So with this, siltation, acceleration is obvious and many other activities. And one interesting one is this, I think one of our dogs, Anolita. I was really impressed by seeing the love they give to invasive species, though they are invasive. They give very good love to them to weed it out and then transport and do so on. But in this area, in the wetlands, they use herbicides to burn everything. So not just because of invasion, but that is a farming method, which we think is an issue in this area. With this and some other proposed areas, we thought that it's good to reflect on these constraints and come out with a framework which we call the SWEMA framework for the improved management of this wetland, where we envisage that stakeholders come together, do diagnostic evaluation of community-based evaluation of ecosystem services, really engaging the local people, and then look at some of the constraints formulate plans, and then they move up to implementation together, looking at on-site as well as off-site measures in these areas for implementation. definition. Then they move to implementation effectiveness to evaluate if the intended impacts are being attained, and if yes, are the impacts significant? If yes, then we move on to sustainable wetland management. But if no, they are integrated back into the diagnostic evaluation, and the cycle continues in the spirit of adaptive management. With this, we come to a few conclusions here. The sociopolitical and conflict breeds insecurity, making it difficult to really work on wetlands and manage in this area, take management action in this area, which have also displaced not just people, and then we will have the concept of internally displaced institutions too to look at it. Now, the inadequate awareness coupled with poor management and corruption, including some threats in urban and peri-urban agriculture, have reached the great constraints seen in this area. Therefore, the SWEMA framework that we developed offers a locally adapted approach for the sustainable management of these wetlands in this area. Thank you for your